All right. So my name is Matt LaDuca. I'm one of the instructors here, and I'm also one of the PMN PMP mentors that are out there. Today we're going to be kicking off the 2021 season for Project Management Institute's PMP prep certification. So for our kickoff here today, we're going to be talking about expectations for you, from us, the PMI material that they have, the PMN material that we have for you, kind of an overview of the course and how it's going to flow. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Agile. I don't have a whole lot for you right now on that material, but we'll be talking about that as we go through the course, and then we'll have some questions at the end there. I don't expect this will take the whole 2 hours, but there'll be a lot of room for question and answers. Hopefully we have answers for all of your questions out there. So I guess without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Oh, and Brian Berry is the, what is your title? Are you like the education board director or whatever?
I think I might be a director. I don't know. I'll have to check my paycheck.
Okay. Brian's my boss as far as this goes. So if I don't have answers, you can pester him about it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we get into our expectations here. So our expectations for this class, just coming out of the gate here, students, you have to have the prerequisite PM experience. Everybody should already have that. You paid money to join this, to take this class. That's not a guarantee that you get to take the exam. So this course is kind of predicated on the fact that you guys have already got PM experience out there, and a lot of it, depending on whether you have a bachelor's or not, you should have 4,500 to 7,500 hours of PM experience. Hang on just a second here. See, I can mute all here with this thing. Can you mute all, Brian, for me? I don't have the thing for that. It's not popping up here.
Yes. Hold on.
Thank you. Okay. So what we will also be asking is for all the students to make sure you've been out on the PMI website and looked at the PMI application handbook that includes all of the prerequisite PM experience and other things that you have out there. It's got the ECO document. There's other things out there on the PMI site that you should be very familiar with before you get involved with this class. We probably talked about all of that prior to the class in the orientation, but just as a reminder there. You guys have all paid for, or you will be paying shortly for, the PMI bundle, and you'll download that material using the code we give you, and you will use that material. You will all attend mentoring sessions. Pam has set up each student with a mentor. If you guys have not received an email, reach out to Pam, make sure that your mentor knows that you're on the list. I won't go through all of that right now, but you should all have a mentor, and your mentor may not have set up a scheduled time for you guys to meet yet, but they should be have already reached out to you to help you get through the beginnings of this whole thing. You guys will all need to procure the Pmbok version 6. If you signed up to be a member of PMI, you have a free electronic version of a free electronic copy of the book. That also includes the Agile handbook that comes with it. If you want a paperback copy, I don't know if they have a hardback, but they have a hard copy of it. It's out there too. You can buy that book. And then we highly recommend, and I guess this is not a mandatory thing, but we highly recommend that you get one of the two accessory books there, the PM Exam How to Pass on Your First Try. There's the one, that one's written by Andy Crow. The other one is the PMI Exam Prep 10th edition, and that's Rita Mulcahy's course book in a book for passing the PMP exam. So you guys should all have that material by now. Aside from maybe not having all of the the PMI bundle, because we're kind of working that all out right now as far as getting you guys codes so you can look at that material. Any questions on this material so far, or what our expectations are? Okay, we'll move on. So we're expecting you guys 10 hours a week minimum for this PMP prep stuff. You got to make sure you're putting in the time. You got to be reading the books. You got to be doing the activities. You got to be meeting with your mentor, doing flashcards, all of that stuff. Brian had that all outlined in more detail on the orientation, and you can look at the slides for that. You need to be proactive with your issues. So if you got something out there, we are expecting that you will tell us that you got a problem. If you don't tell us, we can't fix it because we don't know what's there. This is new for us too, in this format and in the way this is all laid out. So if you do have problems, do let us know right away. We will reach out with you. We'll reach back to you, help you fix your problem. We'll get it all situated. Students will get 35 contact hours for attending all 20 sessions. To get any contact hours, you need to attend at least 17 sessions, and then you will get 30 contact hours, and you'll need to do something different to get those last 5 contact hours elsewhere. 16 sessions, you get squat as far as contact hours. Anything less than that, nothing. So again, this is all new training material for all of us, so expect tweaks to the material along the way. I don't expect major changes in all of this material, but we will be running into, while we're talking about this, some of the material that we provide will obviously have to update. I think one of the things is we have well, I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll come back to that. And then notify us if any of the training aids and materials aren't where we said it was, kind of back along the line of be proactive and reach out to us. If we say this is here and it isn't, let us know, and we'll make sure that it gets updated properly and make sure you have it wherever it's supposed to be. Okay, that's our expectations for you guys, and hopefully your expectations for us. Any questions on that material right now?
Matt, you mentioned Pam would be the person to reach out to for mentors if we haven't been contacted yet.
Yes.
Pam who? Pam
Barger. I can get that. I'll look her up. Or Brian, can you do that? Can you put that in the chat room? Would that be okay? Her user ID.
Absolutely. I'll put that in the chat.
Thank you. Okay. So for our material that we'll be providing to you guys, there is a couple of things that are out there. We have our wiki. It's the link for that, and you'll have this document to go. I think it's actually in the orientation one too, but you can look in there. In that wiki, we have our countdown calendar. This is one of those items I believe we have to tweak unless, has that already been tweaked, Brian? I know we had to change some stuff in there. I don't know if we've done that yet or not.
We're constantly making changes, actually, so yes.
Okay. And then there's examples of experience for filling out your PMP application. So when you're ready to do, well, you guys should all have already done something like that. Use that examples of experience form. You guys all should have looked at that to make sure that you have the time. And if you know you got plenty of time, you might not have done that already, especially for you folks that are close. You probably should have already gone out, put all your experience in, counted up your hours to make sure that you actually can take the exam when we're done. But there's a document that's out there right now, and I think, well, I have another one that I was going to provide you guys later, but we'll talk about that later. There's test formulas that you have to know that are also out there on the wiki. So you have those things, and that will probably be the beginning of a cheat sheet. I don't know, we have other names for that too, but there we have a cheat sheet, and we start with I started with formulas, getting those on there, and then we start adding material, and that's just something for you to help you memorize this stuff and be prepared for it on the exam. It also has instructions on using the PMN website, so on how to do some of the other stuff. It's on the website. There's instructions there, and I'll get that in just a second. And then we're going to have am I correct in this, Brian? We do have PDFs for each of the class sessions, a deck for each, a PDF of each class session deck. We have that out on the wiki as well, or we will?
Well, if they are purchasing the student bundle, they'll have all the documentation.
Oh, okay.
That. But when you break it down, I'm going to PDF it and put it on our wiki as we go. I didn't want to do that until you finalized the changes you're still working on.
Oh, I'm kind of done with those so far. I mean, after the class, we might have to change that again, but anyway, that's fine. So those will be out there too. But you guys all actually have access to the deck, and then we'll talk about that too. I'll show you how. I mean, we broke that down, but you guys will have everything at your disposal then in the bundle. So then for the PMN website, and there's a link for that as well, we have the FAQs, which we'll be updating with after today's class with the FAQs that we came up with today. There's the official roster where you'll check your attendance. This is important for you guys to do. I don't know how often you're going to be checking all of the, or updating the roster, Brian, but you will need to go back and look at the roster to make sure that you're getting credit for your classes. So if you attend, today's class and 4 weeks from now, it still doesn't show that you attended this class. You'll need to make a correction, and that's the roster update request to request a correction to your attendance. So you'll go out and do that with this official roster, and that's on the PMN website. It's also good if you are connecting in some alternate method than you normally do, and so it may not actually record it the correct way. We might not be able to cross-reference it, and so if you're dialing in separately or differently, you may want to let the instructor know that you're doing that. Like when I teach a class, I generally ask people at the beginning, if you're having issues with signing in and you sign in with a different email address or something like that, just say something to me, or if you're having a problem with your audio or connecting, let me know, and then I just make a note of it so that when you do put in your request to update your attendance, I have a note of it because it'll come to the instructor who will then approve that. And then there's a button on there to withdraw from the class. So if you need to withdraw from the class for some reason, we would like for you to withdraw from the class using that button as opposed to just not showing up anymore. It kind of helps us keep kind of track of things. If you want to not do that, I mean, I guess there's nothing we can really stop you from not doing it, but that's the PMN website. Any questions about our PMN material, the countdown calendar, the experience forms, the test formulas, using the PMN website? Any questions on the stuff so far?
I have a question about the roster. So
the roster? Yes.
Yes. After the class, pretty much, how long does it have to take, like, for you to update the roster so we can go ahead and check it out?
And how often do you update that, Brian? So like 10 days or so?
Well, I do put out 10 days because sometimes people have vacations, but that's usually the following day. But please give me 10 days in case I take a vacation.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. The next thing we have is the Pmi material. This one is a little bit more extensive. We'll have some stuff to talk about here. So for the Pmi material, we have the Pmi portal, the bundle that's out there. They have the PowerPoint slides that are created by Pmi. So all the decks that we'll be using, there is 5 of them, I think, 5 of those decks, which we broke down into about 20 or so presentations. They have worksheets out there for you guys to do activities on, and then of course you have the activities, and you'll also be provided a key code to apply for the exam. I don't know, do we have anything else in that bundle? Do you know, Brian, off the top of your head?
No, the portal will give you, and I haven't seen the student portal, but I know what's in it. You're basically going to get all the PowerPoint slides, several videos, forms, workbooks, and some other things.
Oh, okay. So you get videos too. I don't have those on here, but that's fine. Okay, and then kind of an overview on how things are going to unfold here in the class. So first things first, the Pmbok Book of Knowledge was the primary resource incorporating almost all of the test material in years past. Not so anymore. We don't do, it's not all Pmbok anymore. It's a lot of other material, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The Pmbok, it is broken down into knowledge areas: cost, time, risk, etc. It's a little bit chronological, but not that chronological. It's more of a reference guide and not so much a teaching guide, but it is the book that we used in the past. This will all be organized differently now. So it's not going, the Pmbok doesn't unfold the material as a project unfolds. It's a different kind of organization. If you've read the Pmbok or looked at it already, you'll see what I'm talking about. For instance, first thing we do on a project is we get our stakeholders and the charter, and the charter is one of the first things we do in the Pmbok, but the stakeholder register is all the way down at the bottom in the very last chapter, but we're doing it right out of the gate. So the new presentation changes that. It's no longer organized like that. The material that we now have in the Pmbok, or I'm sorry, not in the Pmbok, in the PowerPoint presentations are organized more along the lines of how the project progresses chronologically. So consequently, we'll be jumping around in the Pmbok. So we'll be going all the way down to the last chapter to talk about stakeholder register. We'll be talking about in chapter 4, we'll be talking about creating the charter. Chapter 5, we'll be talking about creating the charter and getting scope and things like that. And then things will kind of unfold in the Pmbok, sort of like they do here. But then we'll be jumping back around again, and we'll be coming back and revisiting those other chapters. So when we're planning the project, we'll be using the planning business processes in 5, 6, and 7 primarily. When all of them really, but primarily 5, 6, and 7. And then in the later chapters or the later presentations, we'll be executing and monitoring and controlling, and we'll be going back and revisiting those knowledge areas again to talk about the business processes for monitoring, controlling, and executing, and in one case, closing. So we'll see that will look differently now. And as you can see right here, this is how a project normally works. We create a high-performance team. We start the project. We do the work. We keep the team on track. We're monitoring and controlling the project, and we keep the business in mind, which is kind of running along parallel with all of this stuff. But we keep the business in mind. So moving forward, this the material that we'll be covering is going to be more along the lines of how a project unfolds, and hopefully it will be more intuitive. I know when I took the exam, or when I was taking the prep course, it was kind of hard because I kept thinking, well, chapter 5 and then chapter 6, and then we do chapter 7 stuff, and then we do chapter 8 stuff. And while they talked about how it was an iterative process that we go back and we do stuff cyclically, it wasn't presented cyclically, so you kind of didn't think of it that way. And with this, it covers it a lot better that way, so it becomes more intuitive. And hopefully it helps you guys retain the material better for the exam. Any questions on how that's laid out as far as the material goes? I know you guys haven't really seen much of it yet. I don't know if those of you who looked at your Pmbok might have some questions about that or anything. Kind of move forward here then, okay. Okay, so in the book, or in the presentations now, not the book, but in the presentations we have, they'll be covering about 2 to 3 topics per class. Actually, I guess 1 to 3 topics per class. You guys are expected to read the material in advance of the class, so you need to know what we're talking about when we do this stuff. And there is a a spreadsheet that I provide with that talks about all the Pmbok chapters and business processes that you should be reading up on, in addition to what you got in the student handbook or the student guide, whatever they called it, in your bundle. So you guys will have all of that information laid out for you, and you will also have the Pmbok to reference back to see how that material comes together. The Pmbok and the Agile Guide, that's the books that come with the Pmbok, the Agile Guide, do not cover all of the new Agile material that we discuss on the PowerPoint slides. The slides do go into depth on the Agile material, which is good. I think it covers a lot of the material that you'll need, but there are other sources available that are out there. The Agile Manifesto, like the Griffin book that we recommend for the ACP class, also has a lot of very good material out there. The web is full of material for Agile. AT&T has an Agile COE that has a lot of information on Agile. There just isn't a single one source of Agile that people use. But I have some links for some of this stuff, so we'll show you that in a little bit here. So each topic, again, there's about 2 or 3 of these per class. They have questions after each of the topics, and there's an activity after each of the topics. You guys are expected to answer those questions. If you have issues with questions, you can raise them with your mentoring sessions, or you can bring them to the class as time permits. We can discuss your questions that you have with those that they have there. Activities, they can be done individually, but they're designed to be managed by a group. Your mentors in your mentoring sessions, so again, you'll be needing to go to these mentoring sessions, will help facilitate some of those activities during your mentoring session. So you can do these individually, but working with the group kind of helps. More people are there, you can bounce questions off each other, you can get a much better concept of what's really happening out there, and you can see how all this stuff is unfolding. So those activities are important, and there's, like I said, you'll have we cover about 2 or 3 classes or 2 or 3 topics per class, and we'll have 2 of those 2 classes a week. So you'll have anywhere from 2 or 3 to maybe 6 of these activities every week to do. And then some of them are very simple. Some of them are a lot of busy work, and it's good practice to do this stuff. So just to kind of keep that in mind. Any questions on that? We're just flying through the stuff here right now. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Matt, how does this align with the Exam Wizard? Seems to still be very chapter oriented, and I like the flow that you've got for presenting topics in more of a chronological, for lack of a better term, order. But how will that sync up? Is that something that your mentor will help you establish when you should be ready to, take on those chapter-based exams in the Exam Wizard to kind of use that tool effectively?
You could talk with them about that. I have a hang on a second here. I have a spreadsheet that I include with with all of the decks that are out there. I don't know if they're all available to you, but like for chapter 1 or for deck 1, part 1, the stuff that we'll be talking about on Wednesday, it's going to cover in your handbook PDF, it'll cover building a team and define team ground rules. And the information is going to be found in chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, and 13 in the Pmbok. Now, chapters 1, 2, and 3 do not really have knowledge areas. It's more general stuff. You hit chapter 4, and then all of a sudden you're in the knowledge areas. And so in 4, you'll have to direct and manage project work, and for 4, you'll monitor and control project work. 9, plan resource management, estimate activity. All of these things, you'll kind of have to know. Now, as far as a chapter-based thing, and I don't know how the Exam Wizard is laid out. I didn't use Exam Wizard, but you're not going to cover all of chapter 10 in this part right here. You will have different things that you're covering in different parts of Chapter 10, and you'll actually come back and visit some of the business processes several times throughout the process that it's laid out now, the way it's set up. So as far as chapter-based test in the Exam Wizard, I don't know how that will correspond to the way we're doing the material here. I would recommend that you probably just take, you could probably take a Chapter 4, Chapter 9, and a Chapter 10 test, and a Chapter 13 test. And the stuff that you don't know, if it's stuff you haven't covered, I wouldn't sweat it too much. They should still be good questions. The material that's out here I don't think much of the material is changing as far as getting rid of information. The stuff that's in the Pmbok, a lot of this is still represented in the deck, the stuff that's in the Pmbok. What's different is they've kind of added the Agile, and consequently they added some additional material to help bridge Agile with the Pmbok. So the Exam Wizard will probably still all those questions, even if they haven't updated it with the new stuff, which, as I understand it, they're updating as well. So it's yes, getting updated on the fly. But all the questions, the existing questions that are there, are probably still very good questions. I mean, assuming they were good questions before, they should still be good questions now. And I can't really speak to the veracity of Test Wizard, but it should, or Exam Wizard, but my understanding is it's really good, and you should still have good questions out there. And when you're all over and done with, and you take a big exam on there, all the material will be there. Just be prepared to know that that might not cover you. You know, if you do 100% on that exam, maybe you didn't cover half of the Agile stuff on that exam, and you probably need to supplement other questions. And as we go through the course, and as time progresses, you'll start to find more stuff out on the web. When I took my exam, preparing for my exam, I was found probably close to 200 sites on the web that had test questions. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. Mostly there was a lot of really good questions out there. And there was just no substitute for getting as much material and practice questions as you could find in preparing for the exam. And you should continue to do that.
Can I jump in real quick?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Can I jump in real quick?
Certainly.
All right, so I think I'm hearing something different in the question. This is kind of the problem with this beginning of PMI changing their test. The Pmbok is a reference book. So I'm guessing Exam Wizard probably goes Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3. And the PowerPoint that was provided by PMI is a lot more directed at the process, not a reference. And so they're going to align. I would suggest that all of you read the Pmbok, and then whatever, and not just read the entire thing all the way through. Read the first chapter, take a few test questions on it. Read the second chapter, take a few test questions on it. Take notes, do your flashcards. You're going to have to absorb that Pmbok, and you're going to have to piecemeal it. You are going to pick up on things in the beginning that are going to be all over the Pmbok, right? They're going to be building a foundation from multiple pieces of information, and so I'm going to give you this warning. There's no real way to devour all this at one time. You have to take this elephant one bite at a time, and I would segment that Pmbok reference manual and move through it at a good pace, and then move through another book at a good pace, all while keeping on top of whatever activities you're working on in the classroom. I know this is a huge ask, but that is the way we have to proceed until a magical, infamous Pmbok 7 comes out at the end of 21, beginning of 22. That will reorganize that information in a better way for our students to absorb.
Super. Thanks.
And as far as it, like I said, and that's kind of what I've been talking about with the Pmbok. You're not gonna, you can look at it. It was, I guess, just in regards to the question for the exam wizard. It's if you, when we finish the first deck here with build a team and define team ground rules, you're not going to have a one single chapter exam in Test Wizard or Exam Wizard that's going to cover that. But like Brian was saying, you got to understand the material in the Pmbok because it's going to be there, and the test questions that are out there. And I don't know how they organize the test questions in Exam Wizard if they do it by chapter. I'm not sure how that will. You'll just kind of have to play it by ear. Take some of those test questions, and hopefully you'll get the you'll realize that, hey, this is a question, I don't understand it because we haven't covered this yet because it's now later down the road. When we're talking about chapter 5 and scope, in creating your scope statement and work breakdown structures, hopefully, especially with that one, you should understand those because that's key to everything. So yeah, you'll have that information. It'll be available to you. And these spreadsheets, I'm thinking we're going to you guys should have all these available to you as well. So they'll help you kind of prepare. So when we're going to cover creating high performance teams part 1, which is Wednesday, you'll kind of know what to look at in the Pmbok to go over this material. Again, chapters 1, 2, and 3 do not have business processes, so they're not, you don't see those down below. But the other ones, they're all of the knowledge areas are all business processes. And it's structured that way. So look at these things, you can use the Pmbok as a reference guide because that's pretty much what it's really designed for. So look at the material on the deck, and then you can go back and look at it in the Pmbok, take some practice tests. There are test questions in the material, in the student handbook that you can review, and then also review those questions in the Exam Wizard. And as you get through these decks, you'll start to see more and more questions in the Exam Wizard that are covered. And then again, you probably also want to make sure that you're getting other test material, especially for the Agile type stuff and the stuff that's not in the Pmbok, because it's really important in this material. Any questions about that part of it so far?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I lost something in this. What is this spreadsheet that we're looking at that you're presenting? Is this in the wiki?
It will be. I think it'll be in the wiki. Are we putting these out in the wiki also, Brian? I primarily designed these for the instructors, but the students should be able to use these too. I don't think there's anything out here, so I don't think that's a problem putting it out there. But I'm not the guy who has to do it, so.
Yeah, I have kind of a
documents in the wiki.
So anyway, they have these, and I have one of these for every deck that we have out there. And it's probably not exactly perfect. There's a lot of material to digest, but I'm really familiar with the Pmbok. So reading through the slides is pretty simple for me to do this. So this should be pretty close. And if you read this material, you should be very well, use this as a reference material. You should be very well prepped for the class.
So yeah, that was my question, is that to make sure that we get this information so that we know what we need to read for tonight and tomorrow and prep for Wednesday.
Right, and we'll because it's the first stuff. It's primarily, there's material that is from the Pmbok, but building a team and defining the team ground rules is almost all Agile. We talk about some of the other material in there, but it is almost all Agile. So while we're referencing these things here, it's mostly going to be what's provided in your handbook and on the deck. So you guys can read those there as well. And if you guys have a book, a reference for Agile, or you can go out and look at the manifesto. That's got some information out there as well. I'll just give you the links for those as well. Any other questions on this and how this relates to how the Pmbok and the decks are kind of related?
And I think you said at the beginning of class that we don't, because I haven't gotten the code for the deck yet.
And we talked about that, Brian. It's the money comes in, and depending on how you paid for it, it might take a couple of days for that money to clear, and then Brian has to use the PMN card to do that. But you guys will get that, and if you don't have it for Wednesday's class, I'll be teaching a class. We can go over this material, and I will take that all into consideration. So, I mean, you guys should still be fine. And when you do your mentoring sessions, you'll be in a class with somebody who has the deck, and you can do the activity and answer those questions in your mentoring session, which you guys should be all doing anyway. So that
okay. Well, hopefully I should have it in a day or two then.
Yes, hopefully. It would be nice if you got all that material ahead of time and you have plenty of time to read it. But we'll see how that goes.
To purchase the code and haven't received your code, send me an email. Now, if you just did it today, don't send me an email. It'll probably come in 2 days.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the next part is the Agile. This is the big difference between the previous years and this year. We talked about Agile in the Pmbok. The Pmbok talks about, the different methodologies that are out there, but it didn't emphasize any one particular methodology. We talked a lot of times here at AT&T, if you're in IT, they made the distinction, sadly, they made the distinction as in project managers do waterfall and scrum masters do Agile. And the thing is that no, that's not really the case. Project managers do projects. It doesn't matter if it's Agile or waterfall or Chartist or Ernst & Young's, I forget what their process was called. It doesn't matter what methodology you use. We use the same processes, and those methodologies all have different nuances, but essentially it was the same thing. So this time they actually put some serious emphasis into Agile, and you need to understand that to pass the exam. I don't think you can go through this exam without understanding Agile. So again, it's Agile. The Pmbok is not the only source for the exam anymore. We were just talking about that. Agile makes up a large percentage of what will be on the exam, and it's not all in the Pmbok or the Agile guide that comes with the Pmbok. Their Agile centers on the team, whereas what we did before were kind of centered on the project, what needed to be done. I mean, you are managing the people on your team, and you're managing the other resources, and you're managing your stakeholders, and you're managing all these other kinds of things. Agile, in here, I mean, the first thing we're doing is we're creating a high-performance team. It has nothing to do at that point with what we're developing. It's about getting a team together to create the project, to create what the project is supposed to deliver. So in here, in this coming up, will be the first two chapters. It's heavily Agile. We'll be acquiring and as our team and are building the team, and then you're going to develop and manage the team. And we did that before, and I mean in Pmbok, we have the we create our team, we develop our team, and we manage our team. We have business processes for that, and a lot of the stuff will be the same, but there's going to be a lot of new stuff from Agile that we have to put in there. The Pmbok covers those topics, but they don't cover it like Agile does it. So what I recommend is if you go out to the agilemanifesto.org, they have the Agile Manifesto. Read that. They have all the different stuff on the manifesto, and they talk about some of that material. Not so much the manifesto in these first chapters. There is no one best book out there. Mike Griffin's PMI ACP exam prep, updated for the second edition, is a really good book. That's the book that we use, I believe, for our ACP prep. Is that correct, Brian? I think, or Philip, we use the Mike Griffin's book.
That's correct.
Yeah, and they have a lot. They cover the material. I actually have a copy of it. I had to dig it out, but I did have a copy of it. So that material is out there. So you can, anything that you need to discuss or that you need to talk about on the, or look up on the PMI, or I'm sorry, not the PMI, on the Agile part of this, you'll find it in that particular book. But mostly you'll find it in, I believe, in the handbook and in the slides. They go into great detail on the Agile stuff that's not in the Pmbok. So you'll be able to learn from the slides in the handbook as well, not just see it when we have it there. And then there's Agile Wikipedia, and there's a link for that. It's the Agile software development in the Wikipedia out there. They have a very good high level and even some, it does have some depth, and it's probably a good resource if you're not familiar with Agile. If you've been a project manager for these past 8 years and you haven't done any Agile projects, this is definitely something that you want to look at, because it covers the basics of Agile, and a lot of what we do in Agile, the material will cover it in a lot more depth, and they will explore processes and tools that you use in Agile that are beyond the basics. So it'd be good to have something more than just the basics when you're doing it. But that, where the Mike Griffin book comes in. But to get started, you can look at the Agile Wikipedia out there and the Agile Manifesto. So that's kind of the basics on that material. I did want to go over we talked about the activities. When you get your handbook out there, you'll have an activity and questions. This one, I don't know if it does, if this one doesn't have questions, but this particular chapter has an activity for building a team. This is the very first one that you have coming out of the gate. And you get a scenario, and then you've got brainstorm key skills that you want in the members of the team. And then the question, you'll go through that, and you'll do that as an activity. Preferably, you'll be doing this as a team in your mentoring sessions, and you'll be going through and doing these kinds of things and answering these types of questions for all of the activities. And again, so after Wednesday, you'll have covered the build a team and define team ground rules. So those they fall at the end of the chapters, and we have our activity here, and so you have questions in here as well. So after Wednesday, you'll have 2 of these things to work on with your, I don't know when you'll have your mentoring session set up, but you guys can work on you can work on this as a team. You can also do these individually. I mean, this won't hurt to do these individually, but they're designed to work on as a team. And the whole kind of emphasis of the Agile parts of this is that the team members, everybody has a stake in it. Everybody is responsible for delivering the deliverables. So it's not just the project manager's job to make sure everything gets done. It's everybody's job to make sure everything gets done. And in Agile, one of the concepts of Agile is that the team commits to deliver everything in your sprint or on your Kanban or whatever method you're using, which there are lots of them out there. But as a team, you commit to say, we're going to do this. You don't say, I'm going to do this story, I'm going to do this activity, and I'll commit to this. But as a team, you have to commit to making sure they're all done. And that's kind of what they're talking about. That's why it's really good to do this as a team. So you'll see more and more of these, and we'll be covering, Wednesday it's these 2, and then if these 2 is going to be next Monday, and then these 2, and then this one by itself, and we'll kind of plus we'll sum up what we talked about in the rest of that. And there's another big activity at the end for creating a high performance team for all of these guys here that you'll do as a team on your mentoring session. Okay, so this is actually kind of what your handbook looks like without all the extra icons out on the side. So if you have any questions about that, you guys, those of you that already have your bundle, you can go out and look at that. You should be able to see something like this without the extra stuff that the instructor manual has. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. I was going to leave the rest of this open for questions. I don't know, Brian, did you want to add anything before we do that, though? I didn't really want to go over all the stuff we covered in orientation again. I don't know if there's stuff that you would like to re-emphasize from there, or if you had any other additional material on this.
Yeah, I don't have any material, but I want to emphasize that all of us here are so very excited that you are here, all of us. And there's a lot of people on this call that are mentors. They want to hear this new material. They're instructors as well as Matt and I. My boss, Philip Ferrer, is on this call. We are excited to give back to the community of project managers, which you are a part of. And we want you all to succeed. And that being said, we are here for you as best we can. We know this is a tough journey, but as the millions of people who have tried this before and many have succeeded, I can tell you as one that did succeed, you're not going to do it alone. So get your mentor engaged, get a group together, and bulldoze through this process, because it's worth it on the other side. Philip, I'm going to open it up to you. Do you have anything to say?
I think this is the first, Brian. Philip doesn't have anything to say.
Yeah, I know.
Either that or he's talking to mute.
Are you talking to me out there, Philip? Okay, so then I guess we can open this up to questions. Anybody have any questions you want to start with here? I tell you what, here, let me stop sharing right now so I can see everybody on our list here. So for the time being, let's just go ahead and open it up, and then if it gets really crowded here, we can raise hands and unmute everybody. So anybody have any questions right now?
I finally learned how to unmute.
Oh, there we go. So did you have something to add here, Philip?
Yeah, I just wanted to let folks know this is not going to be easy. Obviously, you could tell by the conversation that it's not. Don't get discouraged, because what we've learned from our students after years of doing this is that usually as they get halfway through all the training, things begin to click. You have committed yourselves to putting in so many hours per week. If you put those hours in that you committed to on a weekly basis, finding the time to study, whether it's morning, evening, weekends, it's going to finally start to make sense, and it will make sense faster if you're involved with a mentor group, because the mentor groups at least allow other people's perspectives to be introduced, which will allow you to start to put things together in your mind. So it is going to be a difficult task, but once successful, once you become PMPs, you're never going to look back and say, I wish I didn't do that. You're going to be quite happy with just accomplishing the exam. But as far as your professional careers, it's going to have an enormous impact as well. You have your mentors. You have, of course, Matt. You have Brian. We're all wanting you to succeed. We're all wanting you to pass that exam, so don't hesitate to cue us once in a while, and just, if you're feeling a little discouraged, to do so. Because ultimately, the students that we've had in the past, even though this subject matter has changed, yeah, it has changed, it's still going to be up to you and the help of others to get you through that exam successfully. So keep your nose up, and if you need help, that's what we're here to do. And Brian, yes, Brian is our Director of Education, and he has a lot of very experienced people that are working with him towards your goal of getting the exam passed. So that's all I have. Thank you.
And Brian has infinite hours to help you, so if you have questions, you can reach out to him whenever you need to.
Yeah, but always call him after midnight.
But we're actually all out here. Then there's a lot of us out here that will be able to help you out, and I'm more than happy to. When I put something on my calendar during the day, I'm more than happy to help if I got a spot there.
Hey, Matthew.
Any other questions here?
Matthew, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, it's a general question to you and to the entire teams. You mentioned earlier that if we didn't receive the mentor email from Pam, I did not. I just want to check the team if anyone have received the email from Pam yet. Otherwise, I would like to have one person send her an email instead of everybody sending an email. That's she's going to be flooded with all the requests. That's all I have.
Well, just an FYI, Pam sent I am actually a mentor, and she sent me my list Friday, I believe. So I think it was Friday. So I sent something out Friday. I think it was Friday. If anybody here is on my team, you can tell me if you got that on Friday or not. So they just might not have reached you just yet. I know that list didn't come out. That it just only recently came out. But you can reach out to Pam if you don't hear from them soon, because it's really important this time around. I mean, before mentors were not mandatory; it was an optional type of thing. I mean, we provided the service for free, so you didn't pay for the mentoring and all that stuff. But it was a lot of people didn't feel the need to attend those. We got a lot of stuff that we won't have time to talk about in the class, like these activities. We can discuss, hey, we did this activity and this doesn't make sense. Like there's one of the activities about estimating that I was looking at, and I was kind of frustrated myself because, and you guys will learn about the different types of estimates, and it was saying, what kind of estimate is this? And they called it parametric, and I'm like, well, the activities in that thing are parametric, but it rolls up to the estimate, so that's really a bottom up, and they called it parametric. So you'll have questions, and the problem is not that on the exam, I don't think you'll see a question exactly like that. It's understanding the material in those mentor sessions, and your mentors will help you to understand that information in detail and in depth. And so it's good to have them. And if you don't hear really soon from them, if you haven't heard from them, Pam can probably reach out to you, and maybe she can, and actually probably, I'll actually give her a call too, so she can kind of shake some trees and get people to, rattle those cages to get them to get those out if they haven't already. But you might want to check your inboxes. They might have already reached out to you if they haven't. And I'll talk to Pam and make sure that gets done. I don't know if that helped you out, Min. Do you have any other questions on that?
No, I just double check my inbox,
okay,
and my deleted email, and I don't see it. That's why I'm asking to the team is if anyone received the email from her yet. That's all.
Well, you won't get an email. You won't get an email from Pam. You'll get an email from the mentor that you're assigned to. I want to say I have 6 people that were on my list. So I sent out an email to those 6 people saying, hey, I'm tentatively scheduled this, our meeting. We'll talk. We'll see what's a good time for everybody. And so, and we'll go from there. But your guys should be reaching out to you. I don't know who your mentor is, but again, I'll reach out to Pam and have her rattle those cages so people get those invites out, and so you guys can start doing that. And again, if you don't hear end of day tomorrow, then let Pam know or let me know, and we'll make sure that people are responding and getting you guys people are on vacation and things like that sometimes, so there might be a delay here or there. Any other questions about the mentoring or anything else here that we've talked about?
Hi.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, sorry. This is Alexis Flowers. I had a question about the Exam Wizard. I have not yet purchased that, but was going to. And I just wanted to confirm, are we getting the Pmp 2021 exam simulator? Is that the right version or the right, I guess, exam prep that we need to get?
I don't know that one. Can you speak to that, Brian?
I think there's more than one testing simulator on the Exam Wizard. So you want make sure 2021 PMP exam simulator.
Okay.
Because I know exam simulator.
Okay. I'm looking at the website now and it says it's $95. Does that sound right?
There's a coupon code.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, there's a coupon.
Code.
And
does someone have it? Maybe you can put it in the chat.
Okay. I think it's ATT 2021 for the 50% off.
That sounds right.
There you go.
It was covered in the orientation a week and a half ago. And
okay,
it was in that deck.
Yeah, I see it now. I just wanted to make sure that that was the right test version to get. Thank you.
What was the code? What was the code you used?
AT&T 2021. It's in the chat room. You can look at it there in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Questions? Other questions?
Matthew, hey, it's Bill again.
Yes, Bill.
Sorry, I'm that guy, everyone. So, did you answer this already? Is there a layout of the class that's going to be sent out or was sent out and I missed it as far as what's happening each week per class?
There is a there's the roster and hang on just a second here. Let me.
You know, like today we're going to be covering blah blah blah. You know.
Yeah, it's out there. Hang on just a second here. I am trying to bring it up here real fast. I guess it would help if I share my screen too while I'm at it here. Let me share my screen. And I believe that Brian just updated this. Did you just update this, Brian? So when you get to this screen here, it's got the PMP, February, April, Monday, Wednesday.
Right.
Right here's yes, he did update this because the chapters are gone there. So we got creating a high performance team part 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and then you have it's a review here that'll cover that first deck on that we'll be covering here, and then starting the project 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we have a review. And we'll be talking about earned value management and critical path, which is kind of a ugly thing.
Awesome.
There was a spreadsheet one too that we saw during orientation that will make more sense when we get the deck that we're supposed to get.
Right, and I don't know how we're putting this out there on the wiki, but for each one of those, so for instance, if you go to the did I close it out already? Dang. Oh no, I didn't. There it is. So when we're talking about like creating a high performance team part 1, I also have a spreadsheet for each one of those. So in creating a high performance team part 1, there's in the handbook, in this book here, there's build a team and define the team ground rules. So we have that material there, and where did my spreadsheet go again? And so, and then in the Pmbok, you have these chapters that you want to be looking at. Specifically, the business processes in any chapter after 3 is kind of important. You probably don't want to read all of 4, 9, 10, and 13 because we're not going to cover all of the material that's in those chapters out of the gate here in the first deck that we're going to be covering. Does that help?
You're not going to be able to read all of chapter 4 in one go anyway.
Well, you can. Chapter 4 is actually kind of a high level process, and then all of the other stuff is really kind of sub-processes within Chapter 4. 4 is just essentially, it's like you're planning and then you're executing and you're monitoring, controlling, and then you close the project. And then all the other ones are things you're doing in either planning or monitoring, controlling, or executing or closing. So
for Wednesday's class, we're going to want to have read all those chapters.
You probably want to read chapters 1 through 3. That's a lot of that's fluff. I don't want to say it's all fluff. There's important information in here.
Okay.
And you probably we'll be talking about other stuff in 1, 2, and 3 and other chapters or other decks as well.
Okay.
And then 4, 9, 10, and 13. There's only 2 business processes that we're talking about, and it's probably not going to be all of that material. And the same thing for 9. It's not going to be all of 9. It's just there's a lot of them here, but it's not so. Read them as a reference book, and read the Pmbok as a reference book, not as a novel. Okay, it's more important that it's like, okay, I can go when I'm reading this stuff in here, I can go back to look in the Pmbok and see exactly what they're talking about here. I can see examples, I can see this, I can see that. So it becomes available there. They actually will reference the Pmbok in here sometimes. It's apologize for the scroll. This thing, which is probably not that important. This is just one of the things that's out here. This has been in every single Pmbok since I started doing that, which was 4, 5, and 6 has had this exact same diagram, whatever you want to call it. And so a lot of material that's in the deck is also in the Pmbok, and they'll reference it there. And and aside from the visuals, a lot of the materials there, it's just not in the same order that you're used to seeing it in the Pmbok or previous years, the way we looked at it in the Pmbok, the order we looked at it in the Pmbok.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions on, I don't know, about the schedule or how things are are rolling out here?
Matt, can somebody share the link to the PMI, the link so that we can pay for the PMI?
That's pmi.org. It's that simple. pmi.org.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll take you there. I can even show you that one too while we're here. You go out onto the. It's PMI. It's pmi.org.
Are you asking about to get the student bundle?
Yeah, so that you can exactly.
Oh, that I don't know about. That you're going to get a code for that, and then I guess you'll give them directions also.
There's a QR code in our orientation deck if you're going to pay with PayPal, and then there was something else about another service that I didn't use, so I'm not sure about that.
You don't need the QR code. You could just say pay someone or send money to, and then put in the email address of PNMTWRK. I put it in the chat, or you can use Zelle. The QR code will just take you to a PayPal screen to sign in and pay. So either way works.
So once we pay, then Brian, you send us the content, and we're in.
When you pay, it goes to our chief financial officer. There's a few people it has to go to for safety and security. So they get the funds, then they give me the authorization to purchase. I purchase, and then it takes a day, and once I get your code, I send it directly to you via email.
Okay, and then
just to you.
Okay, perfect. And I know that this was in the orientation, but can you share how much that is again?
$175.
Okay, and then if you're going to try to take the test, so this is the site that I went to. Tried to see what day the test was and like where you could take a test in person, so that I could just plan that in the future. And I didn't see where you could sit for the exam. I saw like proctored, and it looked like it was like 24/7. You could do proctor, but is there like a place that you sit for the exam and they have specific dates?
With COVID, it's a little difficult, and I think you're on step number 79, and we're still on step 2. But I love your tenacity. I love it.
My second round.
Your mentor will help you work with that, but there are some websites to help you with that.
Thanks.
Right. Yeah, and once you actually pay for the exam, that's when you'll schedule and all that stuff too. So that's for paying for the actual exam. You'll pay for the exam. Like for us, it was it wasn't New Horizons. Prometrics is where I took my exam here in St. Louis, and once I paid, it was like, okay, here's where are you going to take your test, and you give them a zip code, and they say, well, we got one here and we got one here, or whatever, depending on how big a area, you know, how populous an area you live in. They may have multiple sites, or they may only have one, and then you'll select your place. And I don't know how they're going to do that now in COVID, but as I understand it, you don't want to take it online because it sounded like it was a ugly process, but it sounds like you don't want to do that anyway, so that's probably a good thing. But kind of back to the original question was, what's the PMI's website? Is the pmi.org, and this is where you'll find a lot of your documentation too, by the way. You know, why the PM, you know, the exam content outlines, that's those ECOs you see all over the place. These are kind of how all the information ties to these particular type of things, how to get your PMP action items for getting your PMP. They will have all of this stuff in here as far as the handbook and what you should be reading out there when you're going to do that. You can see here you got your handbook, your application pointers requirements. All this is really good reading material in preparing for the exam. And you probably should get all this stuff, you know, at least these first two steps. You should be reading this stuff up front, making sure you've got all this stuff lined up when you're ready to take your exam. Okay, other questions? Anybody else have any other questions? Still got a lot of time left here, guys, so.
Hey there, going back to the bundle really quickly, I need to purchase that as well. If I was to send the money tonight, for instance, does that have anything to do with not receiving an email from the mentor?
No.
And then, okay, so that's separate.
It should not. You should, if you, again, probably you didn't get a letter from or an email from your mentor because, you know, like I said, if they were out Friday, it probably, you know, they probably just didn't even look at it until today, and they might not have had time to put it together yet, so.
Okay, and the second one is, if I was to purchase the bundle tonight, would I have that by Wednesday's class, or, you know, it just depends on?
Probably not. I think it depends on how you pay, which one of them was a 3-day at least just to clear. Was it PayPal or Zelle took a couple days?
You can use PayPal or Zelle. Expect about a 3-day delay from getting it through our 2-person system. But all the information that you need will be on the wiki for at least the first 4 classes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And oh my gosh, I was going to ask, can we use our personal email address, or does it have to be the email address tied to ET&T?
Probably you want to use your personal email address.
Okay.
I don't. Do you want to weigh in on that, Brian? I mean, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
if you get laid off tomorrow, I don't know how that works out for you. So I would recommend.
Yeah, I tell everyone, if you have a personal email address, to use that. It just makes things easier and flexible to do things offline, especially when you're setting up your class and paying money and things like that. You're going to be using your personal email address, and you're going to want to track that personally.
Didn't you, though, also mention you want to have in the notes in this payment to include your AT&T UID so that from your perspective, when you receive the payment, you recognize which AT&T employee that should be sent to?
Yes, put as much information as you possibly can. If you're using your PayPal account of your sister's and she has a completely different name, please put your user ID and name that you're doing it. If you're using your husband's or your wife's, please put your name there. Appreciate it. But so far, I've been able to match everyone up with no problem. But this is new to us as well. We hope to automate this and make it a little cleaner for the next time around. But you lucky folks are going to be the guinea pigs for the entire year.
Not guinea pigs, you're trailblazers. but that's okay.
Trailblazers. I didn't call anybody fat with the pig comment.
Well, the guinea pigs aren't fat anyway.
I love pigs.
Okay. Other questions about PayPal, Zelle, the bundle, Pmi.org. Yes.
Can you guys just go to the wiki again and show us where those spreadsheets are that tell you what chapters are for the classes? I see the class schedule on the wiki, but I'm not seeing the actual little
they're not there
spreadsheets that
yet.
you were showing.
They're not there yet.
Okay.
Are you talking? You're talking about these spreadsheets?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not out there yet. We were just kind of came up today. So,
okay.
Like I said, I put this together for the instructors primarily, but it's good for you guys to know this too. What kind of, especially kind of help you to cross-reference the handbook and the deck to the Pmbok.
Right. Well, I mean, like for the chapters to prep for next week's class.
And if you want to take take a screenshot of what I got up here right now, you can save that on your screen. You can save that so you know what to look at, and that way I don't have to send it out to everybody. So.
Well, this approach change.
And that's on the screen right now is what we're covering on Wednesday, right?
That's Wednesdays. Yes, that is Wednesdays. And somebody was going to ask another question too.
Yeah, will this approach be reflected on the countdown schedule? Because the countdown schedule still has the chapter by chapter.
And we were talking about that earlier. It's in progress.
Okay.
I don't know who's updating the countdown calendar. Somebody is. I'm not doing that one. So, but it's and I guess
it's on the plate of the education director, and he has, and I will get to it.
No pressure.
When he's not publishing and scuba diving. Okay, questions, other questions out here. Any questions about the material, the bundle, the Pmi.org, the website? I guess I can show you that real quick too if anybody has questions about that one.
Yeah, hey Matt, this is Sheila Jordan. I am a mentor, and the other young lady before me, she had a very good, she mentioned a very good point. Could you, when you get a chance, can you go to where the documentation is? Because I often, in my mentoring sessions, the students are always asking, okay, where do I find the material? How do, where, I know they have the link because you guys do send it, but I would just like for the mentees that I have here on the call tonight to kind of see what's out there, how it's structured, and where you will be placing that material.
Sure.
So, before you go offline tonight, is it possible to show?
We can do that. Sure, we can do that. While I'm on this page, however, I was going to say the official roster. This is the official roster button. It'll take you there, and then there's the roster update button. So if you want to check your roster and see if you find yourself on here, you can search for yourself on here and then see if we look at, I mean, this is an old one. I don't know if a new one, but you can look at this one and you see in his case, this is a class pass. You can see that he attended all of these classes and he missed this one right here. So you'll be able to go out to the roster, look and say, oh, hey, Chapter 12B, which we no longer have a Chapter 12B. It says that I wasn't there, but I really was. And so you'll be able to then go to the roster update request and submit a request and say, hey, this is my name. I would need to update my attendance. And on this particular date, this particular time, here's my preferred email. And, I was this class and I was there, but it didn't cover that. And then the instructor name. So the instructors are the guys who will say, yeah, I remember you there. And that's why I was saying, if you make a note of it to the instructor at the beginning of the class, say, hey, I'm on the phone here, but I couldn't connect with WebEx for some reason. Just a heads up, if I don't, I may come back, and that way I know that you actually, because with the it's hard for me to remember who's all in a class and who's not, but if you point it out to me, it's no problem. It's probably not a problem anyway. I think generally speaking, you'd say, yeah, we talked about this and this, and then I'll know you were there. So, so let me
Matt, on this topic, I know you're going to move to Sheila's topic too, but on this topic, the class is over on May 5th for this section, or is it April? I know I see it says March, April, or February to April, but I know it's 10 weeks. So when I was just doing my counting, it looked like it moved till I just wanted to check with everyone. Okay.
This one looks like May 10th. There it is.
5/10. Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks.
It may actually take longer than that because Philip's teaching that class, so that could go on to the 11th. But just kidding. That's fine. So let's see. We were going to look at the. Hang on here. We wanted to see the wiki here. Hang on.
Yes.
Let me open that link. So when you go to the wiki, I guess you got to be on the VPN for the wiki, Brian. I was thinking we didn't have to be on the VPN for the wiki. I guess we do.
You do, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you have the Pmp documents, and in here there's the countdown schedule, which Jeffrey was just talking about. It's not quite up to date, so we'll be reviewing that one and fixing it as we go along. The Pmp application experience examples, I talked about that earlier. When you're deciding whether you want to take this is put it together so when you fill out the application, it's all readily handy. You say, yes, I worked on this project, I did this, and this, and I did it for between here and there, and it's this many hours in this business process group and this many hours in this business process group. And of course, that's if they do those business process. I don't know how they work that out nowadays on the thing, but with the new stuff, it might be different. And then the Pmp test formulas, version 2 doc. These are pretty much the same formulas. You'll get those when we talk about the earned value management in the review and in the class actually right before that. And generally speaking, for me, that was like the base for my my cheat sheet. You know, when I put all the stuff together. Which, if you haven't heard that yet, you'll probably hear cheat sheet a lot. Where it used to be, we could kind of write stuff down before we actually started the exam. You know, you couldn't bring it in, but you could write stuff down and then they changed it where you couldn't do it right beforehand. You had to, as soon as the clock started, as soon as you sat down, the clock started. So you took a little bit of time to do that, but it was still a good idea. And then how to view your attendance, and this is, I just showed you guys how to do this, so that's there. And then the student orientation, this is that PDF, I guess, from the first class, the orientation class. And then as we progress, Brian will be adding these, or somebody will be adding these for Brian. I'm assuming, is that correct, Brian? So after this class, somebody will have a PDF here, and then the next class, somebody will have add a PDF and so forth. Is that correct?
That's correct. The education director will make sure that's happened.
And then is the education director also going to make the, I don't know, well, I'll talk to you offline on that. I don't want to ask that outline here about the recording stuff, but you know what I'm talking about. Are we going to make those available now that I've done it and let the cat out of the bag?
Yeah, I'm waiting for one or more approval, but we'll have those posted if I get those approvals. So it's to be determined.
All right. Other questions? I mean, you can see where the Pmp documentation is. You can see, we talked about the, you know, the actual updating the roster, checking the roster, all that kind of stuff. You can see the calendar in there as well. Other questions? Anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question about the class schedule.
Uh-huh.
So next week, I see we're introducing the first chapter, which is creating high-performance teams. And it looks like
that's actually this week. That's Wednesday that we're doing that.
Exactly. So Wednesday, it's part 1. I see that chapter is broken up into 4 parts over four classes.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
But the chapter goes A to G, which is 7 parts. So how do we know what is part 1?
Well, it's going to be, in this particular case, it's, if you, right here you can see it's build a team and define ground rules for Wednesday. And then when we put these out there, you can look at that. And the next one is actually the next 2, and then the next 2, and then the last one is just 1 plus kind of reviewing all of them. So, and we'll have this available too, so you can look at that. Or you can look at the, well, I don't know if you have the PDFs before or after the class. If you have the PDFs before the class, you'll be able to look at the PDF. The PDFs are.
So I have the PDF because I put in the code. And
yeah, you have that
has...
PDF, and it's got them all, but they're broken down. Like here, this one is broken down. There's just the two: build a team and define team ground rules. The other ones, all the way through G, are on yours. They go all the way through here, but this deck is only, a fourth of the total deck. Does that help? Are we putting the PDFs out before or after, Brian?
We put them up tonight, at least the first two classes. So the PDF, the way these decks are aligned, if you have that code and you got to the portal, it is my understanding that this is supposed to be a 5-day workshop. And so each deck it would take you about 8 hours to get through one PowerPoint. And there's 5 PowerPoints, right? And so instead of us doing a 5-day workshop, which no one can muster at this point, but instead of doing the 5-day workshop, we're going to spread it out over 20 weeks. Check that, 10 weeks in 20 classes.
Right. So each week has, or each class has, a deck, and the two or more, one or more handbook chapters in it as well, right here. So you have them there, or if you want to look at the PDF, you'll see the deck and which two topic areas we're covering, and if that helps.
That helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? We still got 35 minutes left here.
I had a quick follow-up question to that. That material is only once we officially get our access code to the student bundle, right?
That material will be available to you in the bundle once you get your access code. For Wednesday's class, the material will be out. We'll have the material also there, right? Is that correct, Brian? So if you don't have it yet, don't sweat it.
That's correct.
Am I saying that right? Okay.
We're going to have a PDF documentation of the class material that's going to be presented. You really should get your own material so that you can do with it what you want, but we will still have it for those that are still waiting for their codes.
Okay.
Okay,
other questions?
That Excel spreadsheet that you have right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it going to be on the PMN site?
It's probably, I guess, on the wiki maybe. I don't know. Right now, we have for our material, we have a folder that's got all of this, and each folder has the PowerPoint, and this is for the instructors, mind you. Like I said, I was putting this together. Each one has that spreadsheet in there. So I don't know how Brian's going to work that out exactly, but it'll be, I'm guessing we can put that. Is that going to go on the wiki? Is that the place where we probably are doing that, Brian, or do you got another folder for that for them?
All documentation will go on the wiki, and it will be amazing.
There you go.
It's going to be amazing, and people are going to love it.
There you go. Other questions about the material or lack of material or whatever?
Is the wiki where you have actually been there on the site, the PMN site that has the documentation?
I'm sorry. Could you say the question again? I'm not sure I'm following the question.
You were just on the PMN site just a minute ago where the documents.
Well, I was on the PMN site. That is not the same thing as the wiki. Is that what your question is?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the, I don't know if you can see it there. I got the WebEx drop down there. It's the wiki.web.att.com. That's not our PMN site. That's a different link.
Okay.
This stuff is on a different link. Does that answer your question? Was that all you had on that one?
Yeah, I think Brian sent us that link, and I must have it somewhere. So I just wanted to make sure I looked at the right place so I'd know what to begin studying for before Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, and feel free to take a screenshot here if you want to get the link. I guess I can probably just copy it into the chat also, for that matter. Let's do it real fast. I mean, everybody should have this already. I mean, it's in a few different places, I believe, but it's now in the chat too, so you guys have it available there as well. Other questions? Or I don't know, Brian or Philip, did you guys want to add anything else here? We've kind of had questions and stuff out here. Or we want to just start. I'm sorry, go ahead.
None that I could think of. You're doing great.
Oh, okay. So I guess I don't really have anything else here. If we don't have anything else, I'll tell you what we can, if that's okay, Brian, if we just start letting people go. If you have other questions that you want to ask now that you didn't want to ask in front of everybody else, I mean, probably some people will still stay on, but you can ask those questions right now if you'd like. And then anybody that doesn't have any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop. So I'll be here for the next half hour unless absolutely everybody leaves right now. So does anybody else have any questions right now?
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Matt.
Everybody's dropping and nobody's asking questions. So sounds good.
Hey, Matt, I was going to stay on. Matt, this is Sean. I was going to.
That's fine.
I don't have a lot of the notes. I mean, it was mostly administrative stuff.
Oh, and that's fine. That's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
we also recorded it. I just, while I was doing the thing, I saw lots of typos on my slides. I'm going to have to fix those, and and then we got other questions that kind of came up. I think we can probably put a little more emphasis in future sessions to deal with all of that too. So, yeah, it's if you. I think, I don't know if Brian was something Brian was looking for you, but if you don't have that much, that's fine. If you do anything you want to send me, that's fine too.
Other than the coupon code, it's just mostly questions about activities and test info.
Okay, well, that's fine. We got a lot of people that stayed on here. I don't know if that's because you hoping somebody else has a question, then you don't have to ask, but but what does anybody else have any questions here? I'm more than happy to answer questions about what we just talked about, or if you have other questions you want to ask related to down the road.
I do, but it can wait till everybody's asked their other questions.
Okay, well that's fine. Somebody else said they had a question here. You want to go ahead, Ed?
Yeah, this is Alexis again. I have a question about some of the recommended materials that were put in the orientation deck that we didn't necessarily have to purchase, but they were recommended. I just I noticed that there was the Rita's book, and then there was the Andy one. Yeah,
Andy Crow.
And then there was okay.
Yes.
Is there a preference, or should we get both?
And that's a good question, and I'll tell you what I tell everybody else. When I was going to take when I signed up for the prep class, my plan was to take the Readable K book because I heard a lot of good things about it, and I just didn't hear that much about the Andy Crow book. However, somebody that I worked with actually had just taken the class, and they bought the Andy Crow book, and they said, hey, you can use my book if you want. So I used that, and it was a phenomenal book. I've heard either one is good. I do not recommend that you buy both. A lot of people ask that question. They cost money, first of all. And if you're going to read both of these things, the difference between the two books is minimal, I think. So take whichever. If you get one for free from somebody, that's the right one. Feel free to jump on that. If you want the Readable K book, go ahead and get it. If it's, if you're out there and you're looking and you see that the Readable K book is going to be 10 weeks before you get the Andy Crow book. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. You just get one or the other. I do recommend, even though they're recommended, I highly recommend that you get those books. There's a lot of material in there that isn't in the Pmbok. It was really important before. I don't know how important it is now, but in previous years, there's material that wasn't in the Pmbok that they covered, and it's an excellent book for the material that you do have. So I highly recommend it.
Hey, Matt, I found that the Rita book had made a lot more relational sense in terms of like really just kind of putting dots together and connecting some of the, the more technical esoteric stuff into more practical, distillation. But just make sure you get the new version of both of either book. Don't get the previous version. You're kind of.
And that's what I was saying. Either book you get, just make sure you get the right version of that book. I don't think it matters that much, but some people, they swear by one or the other. I would probably have sworn by Read 'em Okay book if that was the one that I ended up buying. But I took the Andy Crow book, and it was a phenomenal resource. Again, it's like reading the dictionary versus reading a novel, and that's the novel. The Pmbok is like a dictionary, and you can go through and you can memorize all the stuff and you can see it all, but they really tie it all together. And you got one person here that's saying Read is really good, and they're not wrong. It's just you probably tomorrow you can talk to somebody else and they'll go, Andy Crow was great. So I mean, at this point, it's flip a coin. If the one reason says you can't get, if you got to wait for one, get the other one. I wouldn't rush it. If you get one for free, take it. So.
Okay.
Matt,
someone
jump on the wiki and see if it updated okay. I just updated everything.
Oh, I checked the wiki now. I'm sorry. I'm going to check the wiki, and somebody else had a question while I'm doing that.
No, I was also gonna suggest, Matt. There's several really good apps on for iPhone at least, and I know that they're on Android that are out there for the 2021 test as well. And those are really good if you're sitting waiting for your kids to have a dance recital or something like that. You can get into answering questions and just quizzing and practicing.
Can you put those in the chat?
Those apps. Yeah.
Can I ask you which app you're referring to?
Well, so the one that I'm used was it's not been updated for 2021, but there's Pmp Exam Prep 2021, Pmp Exam Prep from PM Learning. There's several. If you just do a search for Pmp 2021 on the iTunes app store.
There's a lot of stuff out there. I actually I learned about it after I took my exam, actually a while after, and I was recommending it to my mentees and to some of the students, an app called Quizlet. And you can make your own flashcards, but there's actually other ones that are already built in, and you could actually find that one that was for the old version. I don't know about the new one. That's why I was asking if you knew which one it was. But Quizlet is another one. You can get that app, and then maybe it has the 2021 exam stuff out there. I don't know. There's a ton of stuff out there, though. There is no shortage of material on Pmp stuff. It is. Everybody likes to do it, and some people are very verbose. I'm not calling the kettle black. There's a lot of. I recommend that when you some of the material, I bet it, and you get people that talk for 20 minutes before they get to the question, and it's like you just kind of have to. Sometimes you got to fast forward through video. I'm not a video fan. I don't know if you can tell that or not, but it's easier when you get them out there and they just have the questions. You can look at the questions, and some people just like to hear themselves talk. So you'll see lots of those kinds of videos. But even those have good material. You just have to get through the verbosity, and then you get a good question. So it's good practice.
Yeah, and if you're in this class, you're probably skewed more toward the type A. You're a go-getter. You want to get it done. There's just a huge fire hose that you can drink from, and I would really rather you focus on the stuff we gave you to start, and then experiment when you have a little bit more time. Because if you're just gonna if you're gonna get this done, you're gonna have to focus on something in the beginning, because the first couple of weeks are crucial to get your life in a routine. Okay, so be wary of what Matt said. Don't get more than one study guide. Either get Rita or get Andy. It doesn't matter. I got Rita and it worked great for me. I know Matt Crow worked great for him. Either one is good. Just don't overwhelm yourself with a lot of different things. Get focused on what you have to do this week, and just be careful of experimenting with other things that haven't been vetted. It's not going to hurt you, I don't think. It's going to take time out of your day that you could have did something different.
And exactly right. And that's, as far as I was saying, these are exam questions, test questions. You don't study the test questions. You just use them to practice what you learned. Don't use any of that material out on the web. I don't recommend use any of that material out on the web to actually sit down and prepare for a class. After you've studied the material and all that stuff, and you took your exam wizard questions and you want more test questions, that's what I'm talking about. Go out on the web and look at that. The Quizlet app is, I guess it's a flashcard type of thing. I actually getting the ones that are already pre-made is kind of convenient. The problem is that convenient is why you don't learn it as well. I don't think I made my flashcards on index cards. And when I was preparing, and I almost didn't have to use them after that because I wrote it all down and it was already, that kind of helped ingrain it in my head. So something else to think about too. There's a lot of stuff out there to make it easy, but some of it just makes it easy to say I studied it without actually grasping it. So just read the material and practice the material, and you guys should be good. Okay, other questions? We still got 20 minutes here, so I can go, well, not all night, I can go 20 more minutes. Any other questions out here?
Hey, Matt, Matt, I had a question because I know you referred earlier about the Pmbok being more of a reference and not a novel per se. And, I just read the first 3 chapters already, and, obviously a lot of charts, a lot of definitions. And when you say just reference, do you feel you have to memorize like all these charts, or is it again just a guideline?
Well, if you have the Pmbok in front of you, there is a chart in chapter 4 that breaks down all of the knowledge areas into business process groups and business processes. So across the top is business process groups. So you've got initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing, and then you got all the knowledge areas down the thing. If you memorize that chart, that's actually not such a bad thing to have memorized. There's way too much stuff to memorize, and that's why it's important to grasp the concept, which is why I actually like the new format here. It happens in an intuitive fashion, and you understand what's happening. Whereas before, when you're reading validate scope, the first time in the Pmbok, validate scope, my first thought was, because we were talking about scope and creating the scope and defining the scope. When I first saw validate scope, my first thought was, we're making sure that we got the right scope from the client. Did they tell us really what they want? But validating scope was after we did all of the stuff. We're validating that we gave them what they asked for. But it wasn't intuitive the way it was set up. And so when you do this material, when you're studying this material, it's important to understand really what's happening. And that's why it's not as important. You're not going to get a question that says that's going to give you a definition and what is the actual word that you're looking for. You're not going to see those kinds of questions out there. They're going to throw stuff at you and you have to kind of understand the concepts. You can't just know this word or that word or this word or that word or memorize this particular business process. Like we had one exam question on my exam was some couple was going to buy a house or build a house, and they had all these things, and the guy talked about everything under the sun. And in the middle of the exam question, it said that it was going to cost $200 a square foot. And they asked, what kind of estimate is this? At the end, they asked that. So you had all this stuff, and as project managers, it's our job to sort the wheat from the chaff and get to the heart of it. And we get all kinds of crap that has nothing to do with it, and they do that to you, or they did that to you. I'm assuming they'll still do that to you And it was just a parametric estimate. And it was right out of the gate. It's like, oh, $200 square foot, it's a parametric estimate. I already got it, I know. But it wasn't like I memorized what a parametric estimate was so I could answer all those questions just like that. You got to understand what's going on, and then you'll do much better than if you memorize everything. If you can memorize it, more power to you. But it's not just the Pmbok anymore either, and that's a damn big book. You got to memorize that plus a lot of how many, I think Brian was saying there was like 8 or 9 or 12 or something other references that are out there.
Yeah, there's 10. There are 10 total references.
Yeah,
and they're like the Agile Manifesto is just a paragraph essentially, but or a little bit more than that actually. But to back up, what I found with the Pmbok when I read it is that there wasn't a single word that I haven't heard before. Like there was no new vocabulary words for me in there. The thing about the Pmbok is it redefines some of those words and the perspective it takes as a project manager. So when you're reading chapters 1, 2, and 3, when you see a word that doesn't mean the same thing that you thought it meant, and not saying that the Pmbok's right, it's just the perspective of PMI relative to projects. You need to know those, and you should be flashcarding that, not to necessarily memorize it, but to understand the concept behind what a project is relative to a predictive project, right? It's something with a beginning and an end. It's probably a service or, those different things that they list in there. Those are things that you have to wrap your head around relative to this exam.
Right. And the definition of a project is probably one of the few definitions that you probably do need to really have a good grasp on. But yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that's out there, and I don't recommend that before it was like, well, there's 146 business processes, I think, and then you start looking at all the inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs is what we were doing then. They don't do it now that way, but I mean, it's still kind of there. But there's just no way you can memorize everything. I mean, unless you've got a eidetic memory, and even then, it doesn't put it into context. And if you understand the context, you'll do well. And that's what's important. So don't try to memorize every single chart, and don't try to memorize every single definition. Know what it means, but you don't need to know it word for word, and know what's happening when you're doing it.
Yeah, I definitely would say. They're foundational. Knowing what the words mean and different lists relative to that concept. There might be like a word out there. It might be XYZ, and then there might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things relative to that thing. Those are things that you need to understand are part of that grouping. And they're not going to ask you a question necessarily about that, but they're going to throw a sideways question about, well, these 3 things are part of what, and by the way, there's 50 units of this, and you're in project plan at W, and then they'll kind of ask that question of what grouping is this part of. And so if you don't understand that grouping relative to that vocab word, essentially, then you might get lost in the weeds.
Yep. Okay. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. And it reassures me on a lot of things. I appreciate it.
That's okay. Anybody else have any questions? Any other questions? William had was it not William? Who was it?
Yeah, no, mine is a question about experience. You and I talked about it, and I just want to get clarification. So when I'm looking at when I went on the PMI and I'm looking at the experience requirements and everything, so most of my project management experience is not with AT&T.
That's all right.
So it's with like fraternal organizations. I helped create a business that has nothing to do with AT&T, just in case anybody's wondering. So and that was a 3-year project in of itself. How far back? So this was in
8 years.
So if I helped create this in 2013, then that counts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. If that's 8 years, yeah, that's exactly 8 years. Hopefully, it was later in the year, but yeah, yeah, sure, that will count. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that will count, and I recommend that we talk about Girl Scout, and I've talked to several people have actually called me after orientation and before this class about their time and counting it. And generally speaking, think of like an event planner. You're planning for a single event. All that probably counts. Things like that. And I mean, the event planner is one title. There's a million different other probably titles for that, or different ways to describe what you do. But if you're creating a unique event, I give kind of the example of a car. If you're building a car, and you created a Mustang line, and you're the 400th car that comes off that line was not a project. It was just an assembly line operation. But if you plan that car, if you were designing that car, that design is a product. It's a project. It's a deliverable. Creating the line to build those cars was a one-time thing, or not one time, but one time. It's a unique thing, and you set that up, and that would count. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Unless you actually work for the Girl Scouts. Probably doing event planning and cookie sales and stuff like that is probably not going to add up to enough time. I mean, maybe you sell a lot of cookies and you do that for a living, and then again, then it's your job and not their sideline thing. But anything really big, you certainly can count those. Don't think that you can fill up your chart. I mean, you might very well be able to, but don't think you can fill up your chart with all these little tiny sideline things that you do on the side. It's probably not going to count for enough, and maybe it does, and it may be if you can use your time on the job, that's certainly less likely to draw an audit or attention, and that's kind of what we're looking at. So
yeah, it'll be a healthy mix. I mean, there are certain things that I do in my current role that I create for scorecards and things like that, based on
exactly. A scorecard is a unique item, a unique product, and you create a scorecard, and you probably had to reach out to people. You probably had to figure out where you're getting data from. You got to know your stakeholders and what they want to see on there. So you're organized. You're doing a lot of stuff. You can count those kinds of things, and then that's fine. And for folks that are struggling, those guys, one of the people I talked to, she was doing the same kind of thing, and it's like, yeah, creating a scorecard is. If it's a one-page spreadsheet that your scorecard, and it took you 20 minutes, obviously it's probably not worth your time to count it. But there are other things out there that take a lot of time and really significant amount of work, and all that can count. Just got to think of it as if it's operational type work, it probably isn't going to count. If you're creating a single product or a unique product or a unique idea, M&Ps, if you create an M&P to document, if you work in a call center, answering the calls is not a project. If you create the M&Ps that have the algorithms that people use on the call, that was a product. That's a project. And doing that, putting that M&P together was a project, or could have been a project. So you just kind of have to look at them all on a individual basis, but think of it in those terms, like the car and the assembly line, and the 400th car off the assembly line versus the design of the car or the line itself, and you can kind of start to put other things into that perspective.
Just to follow up with William's question, like how detailed do you need to be? I apologize, I've not looked at the template yet, but like detailed, like job description, what you did, but also
here's what you want to do. You don't want to spend a whole lot of time describing what the product was. You can talk about what it is, and then they want to know what you did to lead that project. So you want to talk in active voice when you're filling that out, that description there, to say, I created a budget. I did this. I did this. I did this. I did this. I've seen lots of people come back. They got an audit, and they got things rejected. And rejected does not mean rejected. You get time to fix it. But somebody will say, the project had a budget. Well, you didn't say you created the budget. So did you, what, you know, they want to know what you did to lead that project. You describe it in first person. I did this, I did that, I did this. That's what counts. And then you can, you know, a little description about what the project actually created. And if you want to talk about whether it succeeded or not, is really not important, but you certainly can put that in there. Bad experience is experience. I mean, a bad outcome is a lot of experience and good experience. So don't feel like you have to limit yourself on all the projects that succeeded either.
Great, thank you.
One of my major deals that took me, that I spent over a year on, it was a failure project.
And that happens. And you'll get projects where they yank the funding. And so when you put your project in there, you did all this initiating and planning and there's nothing else. And it's not, you got to put in there, you know, we were doing this and they yanked our funding. So that's why I only have, you don't have to say why I got this, but they can put 2 and 2 together and they can read between the lines. So project got yanked before we started execution, you know, and that's okay. Or you came in and you finished the project that somebody else started. So you don't have a whole lot of planning and you don't have any initiating, but you got a lot of executing and monitoring and controlling and closing. And that's good too, that's fine. So when you put your experience out there, there's a lot of things that are projects, and it's impossible to enumerate them all because there's just so many of them. But kind of apply a few basic rules, and you can figure it out. And if you still have questions, you can reach out to your mentor, or if your mentor's not available or you're not happy with their answer, you can ask me. I'm probably not going to make you any happier with my answer, but you know, we can kind of talk about it. Other questions? We got 6 more minutes left here, guys. 6 more minutes. Other questions?
Hello, Matthew. This is Denise Rollins. Can I get your user ID? I have some.
That would be ML2674. That's Matt LaDuca, ML2674.
Okay.
And you can, if you want to ask me the question now, or if you want to just cue me or email me, you can do that. I don't care.
I will email you.
Okay.
I have quite a few questions that kind of directly relate to me more so than to the whole group. So I'd like to kind of go over
we can do that privately. That's fine. Generally speaking, everybody has the same kind of things and you just don't know it, but that's okay. We can talk about it separately.
I don't know if they have this one, but okay.
Well, okay, I won't go there, but that's fine. That's fine. Did you have any other questions, Denise?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Any other feedback you guys want answers on? Last call. Going once, going twice. Okay. Well, I think we're going to be done 4 minutes early here then, guys. If you do think of any questions that you have, again, you can ask your mentors. I'm going to be teaching the class on Wednesday. I'm usually in a little bit early. You can ask me questions then, and if I have time afterwards, I usually stay a little bit late for questions. And if it's something related to the material we're talking about, feel free to ask it right during the class. All right, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. You guys all have a good rest of the day, and I will be seeing you on Wednesday where we actually get into the meat of everything here. So you guys all have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.